Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Olympic story powered by Sports Adda. Well, the entire idea behind this particular show is to talk about all the sports, yes, all the glorious sports that the Indian contingent has qualified for the Olympic 2020, yes, which is taking place in Tokyo. Finally, yes, we are all excited about that. And as we go along with each episode, we are going to pick on that particular sport. The idea is to break down that sport, talk about the athletes that stand out in terms of that particular individual contingent or the sport that we are talking about, and of course, think about what are our prospects going to be moving forward in these glorious games. And joining me in this beautiful journey and analyzing it, exploring it, and of course, celebrating it are Soumitra Bose, senior sports journalist, and of course Sumeet Rajpal, senior sports content analyst. So, well, right off the bat, Soumitra, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure having you here. And I just wanted to ask, well, it's been more than about 2 years. We, as an entire world, as humanity in its totality, has been reeling under the pressure of the pandemic. But as always, sports does show you the way forward. It is that ray of sunshine which is shining through right now. So, how do you feel? Is the overall experience of the Olympic Games going to be? What's going to be the mindset, the mentality of the players, given the restrictions, the pandemic, and all of whatever has taken place till now?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Um, I'm really very excited. I'm very excited that Tokyo is finally being able to host the games, despite all the problems that the world has faced and Japan has faced. They continue to face it for the fact that if anybody could have hosted these games, it would have had to be Japan. And I think we should all be in a very positive mindset now that we are just hours away from the game starting. Everybody is looking very positive and wanting to play, wanting to be on the park, as we say in sports, and perform. Yes, every game being a knockout game, not quite, because you see there are events which are knockout. There are events where you qualify from groups. There are elimination rounds, and there are many steps to an Olympics, because that's why Olympics are very huge. But looking at the mindset and the challenges, I think every athlete who is going to US or going to Japan are on a level playing field, and they have all trained at home. I mean, let's look at the Indians. Our best medal hopes have not only trained at home, they have been on long exposure to Europe, places which were relatively free from the virus. So in terms of mindset, I think all of them pretty well prepared. I don't think the pandemic is going to weigh them down, not at all. In fact, the boxers flew in from Italy. The shooters flew in from Croatia. The top wrestlers were training abroad. And, so I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. The hockey teams, for months, for more than a year, they were cooped up in Bangalore.
Correct.
But, I was talking to Graham Reed, the hockey coach. He said, being in that camp have made the players more mentally resilient, hungry, strong. And from one bubble to another bubble makes no difference to their life. They're used to it. So I think in terms of mindset, they're all prepared, and they just want to be on the park and play.
All right. So, well, this time around, we have an addition of 5 new sports, 5 new disciplines, yes, which is only going to add to all the excitement at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Now, these sports are surfing. We have karate. Karate has been only included this time around. It's not yet been slated for Paris, so that makes it a one-time sport inclusion. Then we have baseball, we have softball, and then we have sport climbing. So, Soumitra, what is your take, as a senior journalist? How do you feel about, these 5 new sports which have been included, covering them, all the excitement and probably all the glory that they're going to probably bring in? So what's your take on that?
I think for an Indian journalist, most of them sound Greek to me, except perhaps softball and baseball,
Uh-huh.
because nowadays there is a heavy influence of the NFL in India in terms of baseball. So our kids are playing a lot of baseball. That's a good thing. Like NBA, like basketball. There's a lot of influence of NBA, and there's a steady influence of NFL in Indian sports market. And it's quite fascinating. And you wield a button. Everybody wants power and show up bat. And it's very similar to cricket. So you play, and softball is nothing new. It's not new to India. We have had teams going into the Asian Games in softball,
Hmm.
and it is a pretty popular sport South India. So
Correct.
those are sports which will attract us, but we may not be able to match up to the standards that needs to qualify for an Olympics. Maybe not in the next two Olympics, maybe further down. But any inclusion is good. Any inclusion is good. Like for example, there was a time there was no golf. So golf came, we had golfers playing. Now you have three golfers playing. There was a time there was no women's boxing. Then we had women's boxing. Mary Kom won a medal. So any addition is always positive. I mean, when you look at the Olympic, you don't look at India only, right? You look at
Correct.
200 odd nations.
Well, we have talked, of course, about the mentality, the environment, how is everyone prepared, and how excited and gung ho is everyone to go and get into the games. But before we actually launch into how well are we going to perform at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, let's take a look back. Let's hark back to our legacy as far as the Indian contingent is concerned, and what all have we done and how have we fared in the Olympics. So here it is. Well, we have till now had 28 medals. We've won 28 medals up till now, out of which 7 have been golds, 9 have been silvers, and 12 have been bronzes. And of course, this is the sport wise breakup of those medals. So, no surprise here, of course. Hockey, we have won 11. Wrestling, we have won 5. Shooting, 4. Badminton, 2. Boxing, 2. Athletics, 2. Weightlifting, 1. And tennis, 1. And of course, this time around, every athlete is excited, is all set to bring back that glory, that gold, yes. And but before we kind of get into that, because we are talking about the contingent, and we have set a record as far as the 2020 Olympics is concerned, and the record is actually quite brilliant, because as against the last time, which was in Rio, this time around we have qualified for 18 spots as against 15 the last time. We had a contingent of 110 plus people going the last time around. This time around, we have more than 120 athletes going as part of the Indian contingent. But you know what is more beautiful and what is more glorious and glorifying and encouraging is the fact that, here's a fun fact, not very fun, but still a fact. Up till 1976, not one, yes, you heard that right, not one woman athlete had been a part of the Indian contingent. And only about 40 some years later, we have more than 50 women athletes as part of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics contingent for India. And that is kudos. Kudos for gender equality. Kudos for the way the women have really, really made us all proud. And of course, Sumitro has a lot to say about this. Sumitro, I do believe you have a lot of interesting stuff to tell us about this gender equality.
The International Olympic Committee is striving for gender neutrality. It's something that is a very good step. That's why today, in this games, you will see the number of medals and events are equally divided, almost equally divided between men and women. So that is something they want to achieve in terms of gender equality. That is why you will see during the opening ceremony, every country will have two representation, one man and one woman.
One woman.
Yeah. So those are indications of gender neutrality, which are very good signs. See, don't forget that the repercussions of an Olympics is worldwide.
Correct.
There are a lot of global bodies involved in the game. Apart from winning medals, you always try to drive a message. So these games will be to drive the message of gender equality. It is a global problem, right? it is not so much about winning medals. Yes, you love to win medal. Who doesn't want to love to win? Because winning an Olympic medal is the ultimate dream.
Well, of course, let's get right into it. Let's dive right into it. We have a record breaking contingent that has traveled for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Let me kind of give you a breakdown of more than 120 athletes that are part of this particular contingent. How is it that they stand? So, we have the largest, of course, team in terms of that particular contingent. The largest number goes to hockey, where we have 36 athletes. Then we have athletics with the second highest, which is 26. And then, of course, we have shooting, which has 15 athletes who are a part of that particular individual sports division contingent. And interestingly, we have these sports where we have qualified, which is artistic gymnastics, judo, weightlifting, fencing, and equestrian. Yes, here we have only one athlete representing this particular discipline or sport. So I'm so kicked about this. I'm so excited because it just ends up almost being like an individual sport, and all that is riding on your shoulders can actually make you either fly or completely crash. But I'm very hopeful that these athletes, especially the way they have prepared, they have been able to overcome all the obstacles. Of course, the pandemic as well added to all of that. But I'm pretty sure they're mentally feeling like steel right now. And of course, talking about all the athletes, here are the medal hopefuls. These are names, of course, which are household name now. And we are pinning all our hopes on all of these people. And I'm pretty sure that these athletes are going to do wonderfully well. But I have one little point here. See, when you have a contingent of more than 120 athletes, right, you cannot just pin your hopes on these people. Here, it is maybe already a done deal. It's kind of understood that yes, we are going to get a medal. But what we are actually hoping for, praying for, is the fact that we have pleasant surprises take place. Like the one we had at Rio. Sakshi Malik, yes? Nobody expected her to get a medal. And out of the two that we won, guess what? Sakshi got us a medal back home. So, well, we want way more stories like that. The inspirational, the guts, the glory. And I'm pretty sure with this larger contingent, we are going to be in for a very pleasant surprise. So, whenever, of course, we talk about hockey, our mind always tends to go towards the men's hockey team. We always talk about the fact that, our glory days, we have done so brilliantly well in the past, which we have, yes, to be honest. But, Sumit, I would really like to find out about your views on the women's hockey team, because they've been making some great strides. They're like dark horses. We are ranked number 9 in the world. So, what do you think in terms of their particular prospects this time around? I mean, I think that we've got a fairly good shot.
I would call the women's hockey team the dark horses. Not many people are counting on them to clinch a medal, but that's been work in progress. If you look, after a long hiatus, we made it to the Rio Olympics. The team is on the rise. It may be 9th on the world ranking right now, but they are on the rise. Whereas the men's team always goes in with that hope key. This may be the year we break the jinx, we get back the glory days. So that pressure always carries on their back. But hockey has turned out to be so interesting and so competitive that you always see 5-6 teams fighting for the middle. Whether Australia, as if Soumitra would agree, would always go in as the favorites. There's Netherlands, who is fighting hard. Belgium has come out so stronger in last 5-6 years. Then you have Argentina, and am I missing out on any team? Germany, right?
So, Soumitra, would like to know that, going into this particular game, what is your take on the way our contingent is going to fare, the hockey contingent, because there is always so much pressure riding on their shoulders.
Just answering to Sumit, Sumit spoke more about passion from his peak. He was more passionate about hockey. But I've seen this Indian team actually performing in Olympics, actually in 3 Olympics. Apart from Rio, which I didn't see, this team has never done well in an Olympics. Never done in an Olympics. Forget what happened on the time when we won gold medals after 8 gold medals, when we won bronze medal. But the recent team has not done well. But this team, in the last 3 years, they've done exceedingly well. That's why they're in the top 5 in the world rankings. And mind you, they've beaten all the teams. They've beaten Argentina, they've beaten Germany, they've beaten Belgium. So they've beaten all the teams. But you really don't know which team turns up at the Olympics. The Germany they've beaten in Germany may not be the same Germany that is in Tokyo. So I think India will take it game by game. They're one of the toughest groups you can imagine. And if they can they can qualify in the knockouts, anything can happen.
Thanks so much, Soumitra. It is very incisive what you just talked about, and especially with the way you have kind of summed it up. We are all very hopeful after that particular analysis that we are definitely going to get a medal. And just for whatever off chance that we don't, you definitely are going to get a medal for that analysis. No, just kidding with you on that. But of course, now is the time to talk about a lady who has been such an inspiration. The more we say about her is never enough. I mean, the lioness, the goddess of war, the pugilist who is par excellence. I mean, I can carry on with the objectives, but it will still not define the legacy that this lady has created. And of course, I'm talking about Mary Kom. So I would like to ask the both of you guys, Sumit and Soumitra, that what do you feel? This time around, potentially her last Olympics, her personal coach has been allowed to be a part of the contingent. Do you think that kind of gives her that added advantage and ensures that she gets that medal?
She's a great role model for the entire nation. She has inspired so many girls to take up the sport, not just boxing but various sports. The entire nation will be hoping and praying for Mary Kom's medal. She seems to be at her peak even at this age, and her experience will definitely come into picture. I mean, it's very important, like Soumitra mentioned, when it's about Olympics, it's about how you keep your head in the right place, and I feel that's going to be a huge advantage when it comes to Mary Kom.
Certainly, and she'll have another advantage. She will have her coach beside her, which is Chotilal. And he was a very late inclusion in the squad. So there was a choice. Either Amit Pangal's coach went with him, or Mary Kom's coach went with her. And it was obviously decided that Chotilal would travel because this is to be Mary's last games. This is going to be her last game. She's not getting any younger, but as Sumit says, she's a role model. Look at her fitness levels. She still wants to win medals. She won a bronze in Dubai in the Asian Championship. That's Mary Kom. That's Mary Kom. And if the judging is fair, if the points are fair, Mary, you never know with Mary. She could be the Tufan in this group.
Right. Well, Soumitra, I would love to know that what do you feel in terms of all our past laurels that have been in this particular sport of shooting? We've done brilliantly well in the past, but do you think that we can at least, as a country, start to feel a little at ease or rest on our laurels and say that definitely we can get a medal? Or do you think we need to maintain our sharpness?
We had world number ones, we have won gold medals, and the best thing is the age factor. We have an average age of around 20, and some of our best shooters are in their teens or just out of teens. That's an advantage. That's like a double-edged sword. There's an advantage and a disadvantage. I was speaking to many of the senior coaches, and they said that it's not about the age factor. It's about the peace of mind. It's how you control your breath, how you control your arm, how you look at your target. Those very minor split-second things actually comes out of a process, and process is only achieved with age. So these are factors. That's why Abhinav Bindra didn't win a medal in his first Olympics. He didn't win a medal in his last Olympics, in spite of the fact that. But what was the difference? Maybe in decimals. Shooting is a sport where winning or losing is decided by decimals. So, and how do you control decimals? You control decimals with your mind and your focus and a process. And this team is a brilliant mixture of talent and experience. There are people who are in their third Olympics. There are people in their first Olympics. So, enormous, it's pregnant with possibilities. But whether you can replicate your World Cup performance there.
So, of course, when we talk about wrestling, Soumitra, I mean, one name is forever been synonymous, which is the Fogart name. Yes, and we have the Fogart sisters who have done so brilliantly well for the country in the past. The true daughters of the soil, so to say. And of course, now we have Ritu Fogart, who is also competing in mixed martial arts. So the legacy of the Fogart name just carries on. And this time around, we've got Vinesh Fogart. So what's your take in terms of that particular pressure that the Fogart name brings? We are very clear that she is definitely a medal contender. But I'd really like to pick your brain on this one.
I would bet on Vinesh Fogart. Vinesh Fogart, first of all, has to live up to the legacy of the Fogarts. One. This is definitely going to be her last Olympics. And the way she has come back, 2019, she won the Laureus World Sports Award for the comebacks. See, when she gets, and after that, she's consistently improved. And she's won. She's already in that mindset of winning. When you get a taste of blood, when you get a taste of medals, your mind works like that. I'm not going to win anything less than a medal. And Vinesh has that mindset. The amount of training she's done, the amount of work she's done on her body to remain injury-free. Mm-hmm. It shows a great sign of an athlete's preparation, any sport that is. And these are, of course, power sports, And, see, that's why you will notice that, Sumeet mentioned Bajrang. But don't forget a Deepak Punia, a Ravi Daya. They're equally good. And that's what I said, that, nobody thought that Sakshi Malik will win a bronze medal. But she won, right? But that's the way sport is. For me, all 7 wrestlers are dark horses. So yes, you always try and pick a favorite. And normally you're inclined to pick somebody like Bajrang and Vinesh. But Vinesh looks extremely determined. Bajrang, if he's fit, might go the entire round, but do not discount the other wrestlers as well. So, and we don't have a representation in Greco-Roman, so we won't talk about it.
So, Sumit, well, of course, we have, as Soumitra has also just mentioned, we've talked, of course, a lot about the Fogart family and the Fogart sisters and their athletes that they've produced have been brilliant. But when we talk about wrestling, another name that pops up in my head is Bajrang Punia. And I'd definitely like to know, as far as this particular wrestling contingent is at the 2020 Olympics at Tokyo, who do you think, apart from these two, can make a mark?
If I have to count first, 3 hopefuls that who will sure shot get a medal, I think Bajrang's name will feature in that list for me. That's how hopeful the entire nation is from wrestling. We have a strong representation. I genuinely feel that wrestling along with shooting is one of those sports where we have a great chance to add up to the tally and better from last Olympics records,
So Sumit, let's talk about our second from Rio, back in Rio, the second medal that we got, which was of course PV Sindhu. And this time around, what's your take? It's almost like we've kind of completely already decided as a nation that this definitely is going to be a medal we are getting. But I'd love to hear from you. What do you have to say about this?
Let's reference back to the last Olympics now. That's all we can do. One of the most watched games in the entire nation. So again, badminton brings a lot of hopes. I think this time the hopes will be even more added to go a step further. And quite positive about badminton giving us a medal this year again. This Olympics. Yeah.
So Mitra, I just want to understand from you, Deepika Kumari has been somebody who has been such a household name, right? and it's been unfortunate that she's missed out on a medal on the previous occasions at the Olympics, and but that obviously doesn't take away from the fact that where she is in terms of the world ranking. But I have this to ask you: that this time around things are a little different because she's recently married. Atanu, of course, is also a part of the contingent, which is fabulous. So, do you think that that is going to play a key role in ensuring that Deepika gets that particular medal, that elusive medal that has not been in her grasp, and with her husband's support and all of that happening, do you think that little magic will take place this time around? I'd like to know how you are aiming as far as that is concerned, and of course the rest of the archery contingent.
I think why Deepika? She could shower a lot of lady luck on her husband, Atanu, and they won the mixed gold medal at the World Cup in Paris. So I think both of them have a great chance. But as I said, I have seen Deepika from London 2012. This is going to be her third Olympics, and she's. I think something I feel like she's always suffered from stage fright. That's the biggest problem with Deepika. She suffers from stage fright, and she's got all the medals in her cupboard except the Olympic, and that's the biggest one. That's the biggest one. But this time, I've been watching their videos, their training methods, and every time she has been at the training ground, her husband has been on her side. Maybe that creates a lot of mindset difference, because when you have somebody to support you and somebody as close as your husband to think and prepare you for an event, well, she could be third time lucky, a hat trick, a third time lucky. And why she could also be lucky. Atanu could also be lucky as well, and they have enough performance to back themselves. Deepika is going as a world number one. But again, as the Virat Kohli always says, rankings don't matter.
So, Soumitra, I would like to understand from you, what do you think about this new and exciting, the poster boy of Indian athletics, Neeraj Chopra? What's your take on him? I mean, everyone seems to be very clear that this gentleman is going to do wonders this time around.
Javelin, Neeraj, his best may not be enough, because all the guys, his best may not be enough. That's why he may have participated in a few events, but he has also skipped a lot of events. Yeah, that is why maybe he does not want to go to Tokyo losing an event. That's why he wants to remain in that right frame of mind. And in javelin, a lot of things depend: the spear, the flight, the air, the currents.
So, Sumit, what's your take on the athletics contingent? I mean, how excited are you about this?
I think before we close, I genuinely want to hear out a quick take from Soumitra on Tejinder Pal Tour and Duti Chand. I mean, a quick word. What do you feel about their hopes?
Tour is a dark horse. I mean, for me, Tour is a dark horse. Look at his performance, and look at his Asian Games performance. I mean, he won gold medal, and then he goes back and he sees his father is dead. The fact that he's emotionally charged, and when a Sardar is emotionally charged, you really can't stop it. It can be balle for him. I think he is a dark horse. No one's talking about him, but he could be that Vijay Kumar of shooting we had in London. Nobody spoke about him, but that guy quietly won the silver when everybody else failed, right? So the fact remains, Tour remains a very dark horse. I would love to see him winning a medal, but again, all this like discus, shot put, hammer throw, javelin, all that, that execution matters in the final second, right? But as far as Duti Chand, I think Duti Chand, she'll be very lucky she makes the final. Just months, not even months, few weeks before, I was talking to her and he said, "इस बार mood नहीं लग रहा है." मुझे mood नहीं लग रहा. मतलब that's because she was talking about the pandemic, lack of preparation, that she could not go abroad and train. It's not that if she had trained abroad, she would have done miracles. No, not at all. But the fact remains, the overall ecosystem, because the Indian athletes were the only ones who could not go abroad and train, right? But yes, if Duti can make the final, I think that would be a job well done.
Soumitra, Sumit, it's always so much fun and enlightening actually talking to the both of you because of the interesting holistic take that you bring in, all the exciting inputs and the anecdotes just make the conversation so much more beautiful. And of course, with all of the light that you have shed on the entire Indian contingent, just going to make it that much more tasty, that much more exciting to watch this time around at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. But let me just tell you before we leave, ये कहानी अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त, because yes, we have 19 beautiful stories coming your way in the next 19 days on the Olympic story, powered by Sports Adda. And of course, we're going to be going through all the sports individually, talking about all the great athletes and all the accolades. Well, some pain and eventually the jubilation that they're all going to bring to us. So, you guys ensure that you're going to keep watching the Olympic story. And from the entire Sports Adda team, here is wishing the Indian contingent at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics all the best. And we are very sure that you're going to give it your best shot. Take care and bye bye.